Ladies and gentlemen, I'm KageKaze, and today we're taking a look at the Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. That is literally the name. The Mighty Quest for Epic Loot is a free-to-play action RPG in the style of Diablo. It is made by the guys at Ubisoft Montreal. It's an interesting take on the genre, as not only will you be assaulting castles in the style of Diablo, but you have your own to defend. So what you see here is 90% user-created content. The castles in green are created by the dev team to be a progression meter, and the castles in blue are all usernames. You can click on their castle and you can raid it. When you raid an enemy player's castle, if you can beat the castle within a predetermined time limit, you can get access to 20% of their gold and their gems. You use these golden gems to create your defenses. I'll go ahead and take you to my defenses here. Now, this is the castle editor, and this is where the game really shines. I'm going to venture to say that the action RPG part, the Diablo part, is fairly average. In fact, some of the loot, not quite as epic as I was expecting, but we'll be taking a look at that later. Let's look right now here at the editor. It's very robust, I would say. It's got a few rules you have to adhere to, so you can't just put a ton of monsters in one room and hope to overwhelm the enemy. You have to work within certain limitations. As you play the game, your character and your castle will level up. You have to spend money, gold, basically, to level your character. As you can see here, your hero, if I wanted to level him up, I have to spend a bit of my money that takes away from my castle's defenses. Now, there is a good side to this in that you don't have to worry about losing your money all the time. Yes, you do lose about 20% if an enemy player defeats your castle. But once your castle's been defeated 2 times, you will get a shield. As you can see here in the upper right-hand corner, I have not been raided recently, so I don't have it. But for 12 hours, your castle will be protected from losing any money. So you're not going to lose all your money from enemy players. And you can get a little bit of money and gold back through mines. It kind of reminds me of Facebook games where you basically click, and you can see here I can collect a bunch of money and a bunch of gems. And if an enemy player died in my castle, you can see here that I can also get a little extra money there, about 250 gold. So gold and gems are used for different purposes. Gold you will be using to buy gear. You'll also be using it to buy hard upgrades to your castle, such as rooms, traps, and things like that. Resources. So the gems are life force crystals. These are what you'll be using to buy creatures. Every single one of these creatures you'll be encountering in other players' castles. You'll be encountering them in the developer-made castles. So anything that you fight, you're going to be able to buy and put into your own defenses. So if you raid an enemy castle and you get an idea, you might be able to implement it. What you can see here is there's defense ratings per area. Once you put a monster down, you get a defense grid of about 20. If you buy monsters, what you'll notice in the summoning portal here, I'll just show you here, they all have a defensive rating. So a defense rating of 6, 1, such as that. That means that's how many creatures you'll be able to put in this area. If I took a level 1 creature, I could put 20 of them in this area. But they're fairly weak. They're pretty much just shambling zombies and things like that. But I can get tougher creatures, like this Cyclops, and he takes 6 defenses. The circles are their Agro radius. So if a player enters that circle, they will trigger the monster to attack. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that you can increase the radius here. That's what you're seeing with the white circles. This creature will in turn aggro every single other creature in this zone, just by the way it's designed. You'll see I have to separate it. This zone here is separate from this zone over here with a different defensive rating. And that's how you build your castle. You basically create these micro zones with a defense cap of 20. And then you fill your castle as you can, as long as you're within your defense limit, which is down here at the bottom. I have a limit of 195, so I can still put more creatures into this castle. Right now it's a bit full with enemies. I would have to create another room, which I have down here. I have 6 rooms to my castle's name. In order to get more rooms, you have to level up your castle. You basically have to upgrade the castle heart. That is what determines your castle's level. You get the heart up, it will allow you to upgrade things like your architect's office, which allows you to create rooms. If I upgrade the office, it allows me to get 1 additional room. At this point, I cannot upgrade it because I don't have a high enough castle heart level. There are a lot of things you can do, and you can buy gear in this game. I'll go ahead and take a look here and show you. This is what you're looking at as far as gear is concerned. You are not looking at top tier gear. All right, and this is where the free-to-play model comes in, because obviously if they're doing free-to-play, they're going to want some kind of money, some kind of compensation from players. The big thing is typically in building. You can increase the building speed, but you can also buy gear. So right now, what I want to do is find something that I can't afford. So let's take a look at these weapons. If I tried to buy one, this is what they've done. They've hidden the microtransactions into pop-ups. So it looks like right now that you can't buy things with real money, but the truth is you can. If I attempt to buy this, you'll notice it says, hey, you don't have enough money. Would you like to buy it with these blings instead? Blings are the real money currency. It's a rough 100-to-1 transaction rating, much like any other free-to-play game does. So we're looking at about $2 for a weapon. All right, so here's the good news. Buying equipment for your character is honestly not a big deal. The gear in here is average, maybe a little bit above average at best, which is going to give you a slight advantage into taking castles of your level, if not a little bit higher. Here's the thing, a castle level is not always equal to a player level. I've noticed that some castles of my player level are much tougher than I anticipated them to be. This gear is not going to get you very far, so there's really not a pay-to-win element on gear. Here's the downside. There is a slight pay-to-win element on the castle. Now, if I try to build something, I have the worker's cabin right here. It's a rank 2. That allows me to build 2 things at once. So what I can do here is try and upgrade 2 of my life force mines. Let's just do that now. There. This one's going to take 4 hours. This one's going to take 10 minutes. If I want to build something else, I can try to finish it now, and you'll see there's 5 blings to finish this one. So 5 cents, that's not bad. This one here, that's 4 hours, that's going to take me $1. Okay, that's not pay to win, right? That's paying for speed, because I still have to get the gold and the gems resources, right? Well, unfortunately, let's just go ahead and finish this now. And try and buy something that I just cannot afford. So I have a summoning portal that I need 16,000 gems for. Gets me up to rank 10. If I try to buy it, once again, there's the pop-up and it says, hey, do you want to upgrade this with blings? So that means I can now purchase items for my castle for real money. And the reason this becomes a pay-to-win scenario is that you can basically upgrade everything in your castle. It's a progression thing. I have to have certain things to upgrade my castle heart. I require a gold storage rank 7, so I have to go to my gold storage here. I have to upgrade that, and then I have to upgrade certain things in my castle before I can upgrade the castle again. But there's the thing. You can take each individual item, buy an upgrade for that item with the in-game blings, and so therefore I could make my castle far higher of a level than me. So you can run into a scenario where a level 1 player has a level 30 castle if they decide to spend enough money in it. Now, it's a castle building thing, it's player generated content. That's fine. I mean, if you're building something for people to play and experience, you might think, oh, well, that's not too bad. Players will, can still experience the castle. Well, the thing is, you have to remember that a castle is defending your money. If you go out and play the game and you loot castles and you're gaining a certain amount of loot from that, the fun is to basically try to balance upgrading your castle while also going out and getting loot from other players. I feel that the system they've got in place right now is not the best way to do it. I think the paying for the speed is fine because it still reinforces going out, playing the game, or farming your mines, I suppose. That's fine. But you still have to technically play the game in order to get a high-ranking castle. If you're level 1 and you're going through a whole bunch of low-level castles, you're not going to get the experience of someone coming into your castle and taking your loot, so you have to go out and get it again. So it kind of eliminates half the game from you. In fact, almost eliminates the entire point of the game, just because of the generally average nature of the action RPG itself. Now, here's the other downside to the way this player-generated content is. Players are typically not going to create a castle to make it fun. They're not going to generate a castle for aesthetics. Some will, but most are going to create a castle to basically mess with your head. It's kind of why the castle is built the way you see it right now. I'm going to go ahead and raid my own castle. And what I want you to notice is the way I've designed it is that I've built it so that you have a camera angle that works against you. So here, first, of course, I've got a trap right in front of me. Let's just kind of go back and wait for it. And I've built my castle to go downwards. So basically, the way this game works, because you're constantly defending your castle, or defending your loot, the idea is to make it as inconvenient as you can on the player. You don't have to kill the player. You can just slow them down. In the upper right hand corner there is a timer. You can see if I beat this castle within 4 minutes, I get the loot at the end. So the idea here is see these traps I've created slow the player down to keep them from getting to the end quickly. So I'm not about to try and kill the player, not yet. Right now it's all about just trying to slow them down. Because if they can't get into the end, they can't get my loot. And that is the important thing. So basically, I feel like the game's design and intention, I feel like it's creating bad game design by nature of that. Because creating a castle that does this, where you're going downwards, what you may notice is that the camera doesn't give you a lot of perspective going downwards because of the isometric view. The best view is always up to the right and a little to the left. Anything down where the camera focuses in this direction, you can't see it. I have no idea what's ahead of me, and so there I've just run into an enemy because of that. And that is the way my castle is designed. I want people to come in, and I don't want them to see what's ahead of them. Unfortunately, like I said, this basically creates kind of a bad game design for someone playing the game. But it's definitely a good design for people that want to protect their loot. So lots of sorts of different tricks and traps that you can employ against players. You can see here there's a... here, I'll just go ahead and trigger it because I can revive myself for free because I'm playing my own castle. If you're doing enemy castles, you would spend gold on that. But here you can see there's unique traps. There's like this springboard here that can knock people into the air. There's a definite sense of humor about the game. In fact, if you ever watch the videos for this game, there's a few YouTube videos out there. The characters have a real personality, or at least Painhammer here is the knight that I'm playing as. Unfortunately, I was expecting a little more of that personality to transfer over into the game. Maybe quips from the characters or something like that. But there's still a decent personality to it. But the monsters, as you can see, I mean, there's definitely nothing serious about it. You've got shambling zombies. You've got basically a mimic on 4 legs that pulls people in with hooks. Lots of really cool ideas for monsters. The downside is, in order to be the most effective on castle defense, some of the most defended castles are the most annoying to play. And it's kind of by design. Thankfully, and this is the reason why this video is late, is that they've very recently gone through and done a little bit of balancing. There were some creatures that were so annoying to fight that they basically caused non-stop stuns. Basically, the way to win, or at least the way to beat enemy players, was to create a castle full of enemies that do nothing but stun the player, keep him from performing actions. Now, there's still some of that goes on. Not a lot, but it can still happen. There was, in fact, one boss, a Terror Raptor in this game, that would do constant stuns. Like every other attack it would do was either a knockback or a stun. So it basically made it so that you put him at the end of your castle, unless the player was good and knew how to counter him, you were pretty much winning just because of that boss. So here, this is my boss. This is the dragon. You are allowed 1 boss in your dungeon. You can have any number of champion mobs, which are kind of elites in Diablo. They, of course, do cost more resource points, which also means that you can't put them in huge groups of enemies, but you can put as many of them as you want as long as you have the room and the points to do so. But only one boss. And these bosses are bosses that you will fight in the dev-created dungeons as you progress. This dragon is a boss I had to fight in order to get up to the level I am. And I've even fought some bosses that I won't be fighting in a dev-created dungeon until later. You see, bosses are one of the most interesting parts because they all have kind of their own attack patterns and nuances. The dragon has his bite, his flame breath. If I attack him from the flank, he's got wings that he can use to knock me back. I'm going to show you that there. Also, he's even got an attack from behind. That's even a strategy, a valid strategy. If I were to place the dragon facing opposite the player to start with, his tail is an instant knockback. If I go back here, just kind of get him to attack me with his tail, there it is. It's pretty much a knockdown, and just see how long you stay down on the ground. That is what the game is about, is designed to get the player immobile. But once you beat a castle, you get to open the door, and if I were to have won within the time limit, these treasure chests would give me a whole bunch of extra money and crystals that I could use for my own defenses. Of course, again, keep in mind that was my own castle, therefore I didn't get anything out of it. So there you go, you've seen that is a little bit of the knight. I'll go ahead and show a little bit of the archer. What we'll do is we will go back to one of the lower levels because my archer is only level 4, so we will go to the 1 to 4 region. And the 1 to 4 region is only dev maps, as you can see. Might be because of population right now. There might be some blues. I don't believe the 1 to 4 does, though. I believe this entire thing here is intended to just walk you through it as a tutorial. I'm going to show you one of my favorite low levels, though. This is Chicken HQ. I love this one. And unfortunately, I went in as the wrong character. So let's leave the castle. Leave. Archer. So as you can see, I can swap characters on the fly in the upper right-hand corner. You don't have to worry about going back to another screen. The castle is shared between all of your characters, so you can make a high-level character, get a high-level castle, and then go back as a low-level character. And again, there are 3 classes, Knight, Archer, and the Mage. The Mage is only accessible if you buy one of the higher packs right now. You can get instant access to this game for $10. $40 gets you the Mage. If you do not pay the $40, you can't play the Mage in the current closed beta. When the game comes out, though, you can buy the Mage real easy. The good news is when it comes to characters, at least the last time I looked, the characters were only about 1,000 gold. So characters are cheap. You're not going to be spending real money on characters. You're going to get those just from in-game resources. So as you can see here, chickens. Lots of chickens. You know, I haven't run across these in a player-created map yet. I haven't even looked to see if they exist in player-created maps. I kind of hope they are. Alright, let's kind of pull back here. Now the characters do play fairly differently. You can see that I still have a health pool and a mana pool, but when I was playing the Knight, my mana pool went up as I hit enemies, and then it drained over time. So you could think of it as the Fury bar for the Barbarian in D3. When here with the Archer, it's almost like the Hatred bar. It starts full, using skills depletes it, and it has a fairly generous recharge rate. You can see there it's coming up. It's kind of slow, but it's not enough to be a problem. And I've got multiple skills here that I can use against my opponent. So, caltrops. The enemy steps on them, hit the feet, and you know where they are. Aha. But there's 2 different playstyles. The Wizard, since I haven't been able to try him, I don't know too much about him, but I have watched a few Wizards take out my castle. They tend to be very good at area of effect. They also have a large mana pool, so they're a little bit different than the Archers in that they can cast a lot of stuff at once. But their stuff can be, depending upon what they cast, can be kind of expensive. So don't know too much about them, unfortunately, so I can't give you a report on them. But as you can see, the combat, nothing too spectacular. I think the bosses and some of these unique creatures like the chickens are probably the most interesting thing this game has to offer. Now you would think with a game like the Mighty Quest for Epic Loot that some of the loot would be interesting as well. Unfortunately, I haven't really seen any loot to really inspire me. Now, This has been a problem that I've talked about a little bit in Diablo 3, is that loot really does make a big difference in the game. If you don't have really good loot, you might not get people compelled to play. In this game, it seems like the being compelled to play would be playing really good player dungeons. But again, because the way it's designed that dungeons defend your gold from being looted, you're going to see some deliberately bad design choices to make the player's life kind of miserable. So once you finish a castle here, you'll notice you'll get an accumulation of gold, of the life force crystals, some experience, and what you can give the castle a rating. If it's a player castle, you can even leave a little comment that the player can see. So if you have suggestions, and I've done that, I've gone in through some people's castles and said, hey, your castle was really cool, but you could probably do this, or tell them something that I liked about it. So there is a feedback system, and that's really cool. You leave a ranking, which the ranking appears to be invisible to the player. I'm not entirely sure what that does, other than it may be for an algorithm to give you more castles that may have an aesthetic that you like, or maybe to make it for other players to see castles. Once you do the rating, you get a little bit of a gold reward. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the items I found. I mean, these are just low level, but you're looking at physical armor, and well, here we go. This will be a better way of showing you some of the loot. Go to the blacksmith. And let's look at, say, the level 30 to 34 gear, shall we? So look at these weapons here. This is damage per second and snare chance on this. Let's go ahead and switch over to the knight's gear. Same thing, damage per second crit, damage per second stun chance, damage per second increased attack speed. There are some legendary items. There are some epic items. But I haven't really seen any of those just yet. And a lot of the gear is really just based around stats. So there's not any of these really cool procs that you might see out of unique items or anything like that. So unfortunately, with my experience with the game, the loot has been kind of lackluster. In fact, what keeps me coming back to the game is really building my castle. I didn't think I would be as compelled to do that, but I have been. There's just been something really fun about making a castle and defending it. So the game is not bad. I just think that they could definitely iterate on it and improve on it. This recent patch, this is the whole reason why this video got delayed, was this recent patch and changing some of the balancing. This is the reason why there's a pay-to-win element. The ability to buy things in your castle for money did not exist previously. It was only for speed. So that was a very recent change, and they are listening to feedback. The devs have been very active in listening. In fact, a lot of player skills and monster skills got changed around because of player feedback. So if you play the game, you decide to try it out, you get in with, say, the $10 initial beta purchase, and you've got any feedback for them, they will be willing to listen. And I think that's the important thing. So we'll have to see how this goes. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I've really been impressed with the scope of it. This whole duality thing of looting castles and creating castles. I found myself just sitting here making castles, like switching designs around, trying new traps. And it's been really fun, honestly. But as you can see, again, from the skills of the characters, I think that maybe the combat could be improved. The combat is not terrible. It's like I said, it's kind of average, honestly. I would rate the Diablo style version of this game on the lower end. I would not put it too high, honestly. But it's the combination of the two that make it kind of an interesting game to play. So it's really been dragging my attention back. I put it on the shelf for a bit in order to wait for the patch, and yet I still kept logging in every day to basically do my little cow clicking and get my gold and then level up a creature. And there's actually a lot of strategy to this. You can build this design, like I mentioned, where you're screwing over the player through camera angles, but you can also upgrade your monsters. Any of these monsters can be upgraded. So I start off with these zombies that are level 1, and I've leveled them up to level 14 now. And some creatures even have special abilities. This Defendatron, for example, can be a bodyguard. He absorbs 100% damage to one of my creatures. So what I do with him is I put him on defense for a more powerful creature. So I've got this giant skeleton here who's defended by the Shieldtron, so the player has to kill the Shieldtron before it can kill the higher level monster. So there's several strategies like that that you can employ into this game. So for example, Bone Puppeteers. These guys can raise the dead, or they can heal, or they can invoke frenzy into the creatures around them. You can make a castle that is uniquely yours. And that is the thing that interests me the most. And that is what I really like to see in this game. I want to see more player castles that are really fun to play and have this really great design. And unfortunately, I feel that because you can lose money from enemy players, that it may not create that dynamic. And unfortunately, I'm not sure if there's a way around that, because the idea of having your castle raided, I mean, that is the game's entire aesthetic. The storyline about this is you're basically just trying to build up your own castle by looting other castles. That's the whole point of it. But maybe if the penalty wasn't so steep, maybe players might not be willing to. But then again, unfortunately, when you have that negative aspect, even if it's only 5%, I think players will still want to do the best they can not to lose that money. That's really hard to say, because I think the joy in games like this is seeing really well thought out level design from the community. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. Again, kind of an average Diablo game, but a great dungeon design game. I guess, even though I never played it, I would have, what's a Dungeon Keeper? Something like that? I mean, I have not really played those kind of games before. And by playing this one, it's made me think, I might actually kind of like those games. This has been really fun. So, unfortunately, I do not know when this game will become completely free to play. It will obviously eventually be free to download, free to play. It's just right now they're doing a beta buy-in period. You can sign up or purchase the game at themightyquest.com. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, please, by all means, leave them in the comment section below. I will be reading. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.